So today is Monday, December 22nd. It's 7:25 a.m. Monday, December 22nd, 7:25 a.m. Eastern Time. I just want to talk about today some that I was reading in the news. I had a pilot. It was kind of an experience that I had. I never flown in a plane before. Um, I never fly in my life, so I flew one time. I took a bus one time. So these are the two different experiences that I had in my life uh, concerning transportation. Uh, One would be Greyhound buses, getting on buses to travel, or uh, getting on planes to travel. You know, a lot of people say planes are faster and better and so forth. There are different, since I never traveled in neither, I never traveled in the bus before. I usually drive a car. Usually rent a car or have my own car and drive wherever I'm going, either to Florida, upstate New York, anywhere in the country. Usually I drive myself. I don't depend on mass transit or planes. I never got in a plane before, ever. Um, so this is a video that I'm making just to explain the two different situations that I went through um, in going to get my CDL training. I had to get transported to the location, which was in Arkansas. Uh, the first first transportation that I took was by bus. I'm really gonna let you know that the bus trip was not that bad. The only thing that was bad about it, it was a long time. Um, if I had to travel somewhere in the country and it was within 10 hours or less than 10 hours or 15 hours, you know, something that is not going to be 24 hours, I would go by bus. Taking a bus seems to me to be a better solution. It's not as terrible as people say it is. I actually got on a Greyhound bus. The bus was pretty new. It was a little tight, uh, not much space. But what do you expect for, you're traveling on a bus, we would stop more or less every couple of hours. People get out and stretch your legs and stuff like that. So it was not that bad. Now, the bus trip that I took was 39 hours. Okay. I went to Arkansas. It took 39 hours to get there. Okay, so it was a very long trip. I took 3 buses. Uh, I would not do that again. I would never, take a trip that long. If it came to me taking a trip that long, I would drive myself. Arkansas is only 19 hours away from where I live. Because of the bus, stops in certain places and does certain things. It took 39 hours. Uh, especially, you know, switching buses and waiting in between the switching buses and stuff like that. We also had to stop for a bus driver. The bus drivers had to be, you know, change the bus driver, clean the bus. The people were pretty mellow, I would say. There was no outbreaks of violence or any type of disturbance on the bus. I know a lot of people on YouTube say that it's a little bit crazy and people are crazy. I had no issues on the bus, and I was coming from New York. So from New York all the way to Arkansas. Um, was a very long ride, and there were many different type of people on the bus. Okay, um, there was no real big situation. Pretty much, everybody on the bus was adults. There was one or two kids. There was no thieving. There was no fighting or arguing or anything of that sort. Thank God. I mean, I'm sure it does happen, but I think the majority of the time it doesn't happen. Um, I didn't find anything, I would say, adverse as to not taking the Greyhound bus. Actually, I found it more pleasant than flying. Okay, so I'm going to compare riding the bus and flying on a plane, which I never did neither. So I never flew on a plane, and I never been inside of a bus to go anywhere. Like I said, I usually drive wherever I'm going to go. Comparing the bus to the plane, I'd rather take the bus. Like I said, if I had to go anything more than 15 hours, anything with under 1 day, it's okay to use the bus. I would take a bus. Now, some people feel that's a long time to be in a bus. For me, it is reasonable than flying. I felt very different flying. Um, the threat and the compactness of being inside of a plane with so many people and being packed in like sardines, I really was uncomfortable. I really enjoyed being on the bus more than being on a plane. On the bus, I was sitting by a window, so I had a window seat, and it was okay. I had my video camera and I recorded it. I will be putting up the videos of me going to Arkansas, showing my trip, uh, how nice it was. It was a long trip. The only thing was that it was a long trip. Otherwise, the trip was not bad. I didn't get to sleep too much on the bus. Not off a couple of hours, and then you wake up. But I was expecting that, because I'm not a type of person to fall asleep when there's something moving. I can't fall asleep in a plane. I won't be able to fall asleep on a bus. The bus, the air quality, and the cleanliness of the bus was okay. There was nothing overwhelming. There was no overwhelming smells. Couple of people snoring, you know, fall asleep. They snoring. That you cannot help. You know, you put your headbuds on, earbuds, and you pretty much listen to your music. There was no feeling of nausea. There was no feeling of sickness or bad smells of fumes, bus fumes or car fumes, any type of pollution. There was no smell. The bathroom was pretty decent in the back of the bus. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't something that you would like, but it wasn't disgusting. You were able to use the bathroom. Uh, you know, it wasn't like something that a lot of people say was disgusting and blah blah blah. First time I actually used the bathroom in the, I didn't. Pretty much I was just urinating. It was kind of funny. First experience urinating in a bus while the bus is moving. You're kind of holding onto the sides of the kind of holding to onto the sides of the door. You know, there's like a handle you can hold on to. I pretty much just held onto the walls. I had gloves on. So it wasn't as bad as a lot of people say it was. I found the experience riding on the bus more pleasant than riding on a plane. I am comparing both of these because riding on the plane was way worse than riding on a bus. There are less people on the bus. We get in and out of the bus quickly. It's not, you know, so many people, and the fumes are a big thing for me. I really hate pollution and the smell of diesel fuel or car fumes, exhaust. And that was one of the things that also feeling sick because of the fumes. On the bus, it was pretty pleasant. I understood the bus drivers were pretty harsh. They weren't. They were pleasant to a point of like any other worker who has to deal with a lot of people. Okay, so they were enough pleasant to be professional, and they kind of told you like there's no messing around, there's no smoking, so forth. The videos will show how pretty direct they were when they had to talk to people. They pretty much told you the truth, whether you like it or not. So my overall experience with the bus, I would say out of 1 out of 10, I'll give it an 8. So from 1 to 10, I give the bus, Greyhound transportation, an 8. I understand the reason why they lay you over in certain stations when you have to change the bus, or you're changing buses, or you're going a different way, like you have to get to a certain state or a certain bus stop, and then you're going to switch to another bus to go a different direction. I understand the hour and hour and a half layover. That's just in case something happens to the bus, you won't be late for the trip. So if something happens to the bus, they still have like an hour and a half play between the buses, so that you could make it if something happens to the bus. I understood that. It was not that bad. I pretty much enjoyed it. I recorded a lot being on the bus. I recorded a lot of video going across the country. A lot of open land, not that many houses. You could see how big America is as you travel across. On a plane, you really don't see anything. The comparison between what you see on the ground and what you're seeing in the airplane, there's a big difference between seeing stuff and not seeing anything, you know. And being claustrophobic. Some people who are claustrophobic, being on the plane is totally claustrophobic. It's very small. I found the plane to be smaller spaced than the bus. Where a bus, I don't know, I seemed like it was more open. The windows, I guess because of the windows also, but the space in the bus seemed to be bigger than being in a plane. Okay, the bus is more squarish. You can stand up, put your luggage on the top. I mean, even though it's kind of the same size, but I felt the bus to be more spacious, more non-claustrophobic, and you don't feel, I would say, trapped. Okay, I don't feel trapped inside of a bus. So that's why I recommend, as far as me, I'm concerned, a person who never rode in a bus, a person who never has taken an airplane flight, and comparing the two, I would go on the bus. If I had to go somewhere, what you could do if you're going on a long trip, you could do like take the bus to a certain place, like 10 hours or something. Say like if it's 30-hour trip, you could split it up into a couple of days, so that way you don't have to be on the bus all the time. You could take your trip from, say, New York to Ohio, you know, a 15-hour or a 12-hour ride, stop, and then stay in the place that you stopped at, you know, like a hotel, just to, you know, walk around the city. There was a lot of nice video I took of the cities we went through. I crossed over the Mississippi. I filmed everything, so pretty much you could see the different cities that we passed through. Ohio, Louisville. So there's a lot of places that I filmed that I felt, hey, it'd be nice to stay here for the next day, like go to a hotel and sleep in a bed and take a shower, and then the next day wake up and then get on a bus and then go another 10 hours or something. I think that way would be better to take your trip. If you're going to go on a long trip, you want to get across the country, I think that is a way better visually and claustrophobically and nauseating. I would take the bus, because the difference between the bus, as I said, and the plane is there's more space on the bus. You don't feel claustrophobic. You're kind of on the ground. You see what's around you. It's not something that you know, you're like stuck in a chair where you can't pretty much do anything. Where if the vehicle the vehicle that you're being transported on has an issue, you know, in a plane there's not much you could do. On a bus, you know, we could get off the bus. If there's a flat or there's an engine problem, you know, they could call ahead, and people, you know, it's not like we're gonna die on a bus if there's an engine problem. As we seen the day that I flew back to New York from Arkansas, was a Friday. It was actually the same airline I took, United, and the same day one of the planes of United, one of the engines failed, and they had to dump the fuel and land back at the airport, which was, it was a very waking up situation, because I had to take two planes. I took one plane from Arkansas to Chicago, and then from Chicago to New York. It just made it worse for me for taking two planes. The first, so as far as planes and buses are concerned, I would say that the bus for me was a better way to travel, even though it takes longer. I would split up, like I said, I would split up the hours, so that way your hours can be broken up into like 10 units, and you know, you could travel 10 hours and then have a sleep at a hotel, stay in the city for a couple of hours, maybe, you know, 5 or 6 hours, get some breakfast or something, and then, you know, later on take the next bus in your next rest of your leg of your journey. I feel that is a much safer and more pleasant way to travel, where you're actually going to see different stuff that you never seen before. So I would say traveling on a bus for me is a more pleasant, more fulfilling trip as as somebody who's traveling. Even though you got to get to the place at a certain time, you can time yourself and make it a better trip. So for me, bus would be much better. Now, my experience in a plane was totally different. Now, I had to travel with two different planes. The experience for me was on the first plane, which was a smaller plane. It was only the plane was much smaller, and there was only 2 seats on every side. There was 2 seats on my left and 2 seats I was in next to another girl. So it was just 2 of us, and then 2 seats on that side, which was a smaller plane. The plane did look kind of beat up with United. I took a couple of pictures of it, show it on the video. The plane, and they just kind of looked like they were beat up planes. As I was watching the plane, that we had to get what they call de-iced. Even though we was in Arkansas, the temperature was pretty warm. They still had to de-ice the plane. They threw this liquid on the plane, and they were de-icing the plane, which is also another scary situation. You're sitting in the plane, and the plane starts to roll, and then the pilot says, you know, we have to get de-iced, you know, and then like they throw this liquid on the plane, and we're just sitting there. It took a long time between getting on the plane and actually taking off. So you're pretty much sitting for at least more than 40 minutes. We sat in the plane before the plane even took off. I was kind of curious as to why haven't we taken off yet, and you know, why is it taking so long. And finally the pilot said, you know, we got to get de-iced, and then you actually see the plane being de-iced while we're sitting in it. You see the liquid coming off of the you see the liquid coming down on the windows. They actually de-iced the whole plane, which is something to think about. You know, you're actually thinking, if somebody messes up, you know, and they leave, or they forgot a spot or something, and on the plane from the de-icing, you know, what's gonna happen? You know, are the flaps gonna not move because there's ice on them? Because once you get up into the air, it's gonna be colder. Traveling at a higher speed is gonna get colder. So there was a whole wondering as to what the hell is going on. Now, as the plane began to roll, to take off, very bumpy. I felt very uncomfortable with the plane as it started to roll to take off, and then you kind of hear the engines rev up, and the plane starts to pick up speed, and it's they don't even tell you like, okay, we're ready to take off. You know, they just take off. You know, like at least they should tell you, hey, we're ready to take off. You know, that way you could brace yourself. I found the stewardesses rude. I mean, I just felt they were rude in the way they're fake. You know, welcome to the flight, and you know, it's just, you can see that it's fake, and they really don't care. I just found these stewardesses rude, you know, with their fake niceness. You can see that what they're doing is just totally fake. It's a job, I understand that, but you could just say hi. They just constantly saying the same thing. You can see that it's like, I guess they have to do it to keep their job, and I mean, hey, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I just felt it was a fakeness, where the bus driver, compared to the bus drivers, the bus drivers were real. Okay, they told you the truth. Like, they don't want you to play around. If you're gonna play around, we're gonna throw you out the bus. I'd rather have somebody talk to us like that and tell us the truth and be for real than to be fake nice. You know, you're a fake nice person. Where when you got on the plane, you know, hello, you know, you could tell the person is totally fake. It's just so, I don't know, plastic. It's so plastic, as I would say. It's totally a plastic niceness. And when you get on the bus, once the plane started taking off, I just felt they should have told us we're ready to take off, you know, and gave us some sort of a warning. Hey, we're gonna take off now, you know. But there was no warning. Pretty much the plane just started rushing down the runway, and the feeling of the thrust and leveraging off the ground, you kind of feel pushed back into your seat, kind of like a roller coaster ride, where you feel the pressure, the G-force of the plane taking off. The first plane, I would say it was a smaller plane. It was a less bumpy ride. Once we got into the air, we really couldn't see anything outside the windows. It was pretty much all fog. You know, you don't see anything. It's just foggy. So there's really nothing to see when you fly. Until we got kind of like high above the clouds, and there was a little bit, you could see the clouds down there pretty much. That was it. There was the video, or the only thing you could see is the wing of the plane. I recorded the wing of the plane because there was really nothing else to record. And then when we landed, I felt the landing was pretty gentle on the first plane. The landing was pretty good. You know, it wasn't that bad. I felt, hey, this is not a bad experience. One thing I did not like in the first plane, well, both planes, but the first one, was the smell of the fuel. I was reading a story today about the pilots who, you know, they get poisoned by this fuel, constantly sniffing the fuel, and the poison of the oil being burned, and they keep smelling this fuel that becomes toxic. It's like poison. Some of them actually, it has something to do with their brain cells and their motor skills. A lot of pilots, you know, lose their ability to function because of the fumes. That's one thing I did not like. It really was bad. The whole plane got full of like smoke from like the diesel smoke or whatever, the jet fuel smoke. It was really bad, where I had to cover my face. I covered my everybody else kept breathing like normal, but I smelt it. It was very bad. I had to cover my face because of the fumes that entered into the plane. Now this is just before we took off, so I don't know what happened, but it was a very bad odor of fumes, like burnt fuel, smoke, whatever you want to call it. It was a bad odor, overwhelming odor, where I had to cover my face and breathe for at least 5 minutes before the smell went away. That was one of the things that I totally didn't like, because that kind of makes you sick. I felt nauseated by it. And then, you know, taking off, you know, that also gives you a little bit nauseating, smelling those fumes. When we landed, the same thing happened. So when we took off, there was fumes. When we landed at the airport in Chicago International, there was also fumes. So there was a lot of fumes. When we landed, the whole plane got full of smoke. Like, you can't see the smoke, you smell it. So it was like it was sucking the air into the plane, and I was wondering how the hell is the air, how the hell is the fumes getting inside the plane if we're, air compressed? Why is that happening? I guess it sucks the air out from the engines, and it's sucking the smoke right into the cabin. So it's like the whole plane is being full of fumes from outside, which was disgusting. I just felt that was the worst thing that could happen. That did not happen in the bus. Okay? The bus did not, never at any time was full of diesel fumes, and we stopped in many truck stops, and the bus never was hit by any fumes at all. So that was one of the negatives of flying, was the fumes of the fuel that is burnt, and the fuel, the pollution that's coming off of the jets, going into the cabin while we're landing. So we're landing. The minute we land, it sucks in all this dirty fumes, and now you're stuck in the plane, breathing this, breathing this crappy ass fuel. That's one of the things I did not like. The other thing I did not like was entering and exiting the plane through one little small door in the front, which was I felt was really weird. Such a small little door in the front, and you kind of like bend down to get in. It's just weird. And there's only one row to the back. I know that's on the bus. It's the same thing, but the door is bigger. I don't know. You feel more. It's more open. When you're entering the plane, it's kind of like you're entering a toothpaste tube. It's like a tube. So you're entering this tube that is pretty much your solid stuck in there. All right, it's like the cap. The door is like a cap where they're gonna put you in there, and now you can't get out, which is a fact. You cannot get out, even if you wanted to. So you can't get out the plane. Once they lock that door, you're pretty much stuck in there. That's the way I felt. I felt like, I'm not claustrophobic. I don't have that problem, but that's the way, that was the overwhelming feeling that I had. Like, I am stuck inside this plane. Now, once we landed at Chicago International, that was a nightmare. I'm going to tell you now, going between, switching between planes is the same thing like switching on buses, but 10 times worse. For you to switch a plane is 10 times worse than on a bus. Because at least a bus, you sit for an hour maybe. If they'll tell you an hour and a half, okay, hour, and then the bus comes and you get on the bus. A plane is 10 times worse. It's 10 times more people. You got to get on by groups. So, people go for group 1, group 2. It's just 10 times worse. The amount of people on the bus that I got on, I think it was 300. It was about 300 people. There was 3 rows of seats on the second plane that I got on from Chicago to New York. I was in the middle, so my seat was, it mattered not where I sat, okay? Whether I sat in the middle or by the window or in the aisle, it made no difference, because you pretty much couldn't do shit. You can't do anything. You can't get up and walk around. You can't do anything. The plane is so compact that you got 3 people on this side, 3 chairs, and there's 3 chairs on the other side of the plane, and there's just a small little aisle in the middle. I mean, they pack us into this thing like sardines. That plane, I felt, even though it was a bigger plane, it was worse. the time that it took, the delay, there was a delay. The delay was 2 hours. So I had to wait 2 hours because of a delay in the plane. I don't know what happened. There was no snow. I kind of kept looking out the window. I got video of it. I kept looking to see where is my plane. When is it gonna come? You know, one of the plane that. The other thing they do also, they keep changing your gate. So they'll say go to B8, gate 8, and then oh no, go to gate 7. So it's constantly changing. Like, you know, you're standing here waiting. Next thing you know, if you don't look on the program, thank God I decided to look at the program, because I would have still been in Chicago. It said to go to gate 7, so I was at gate 8, and they said it was gate 7. So I had to get out of gate 8 and go all the way to gate 7, which was a distance away. And when I got there, there was a massive crowd there. I was like, how big is this plane? Like, how many people are getting on this plane? The first plane that I got on wasn't that many people, and it made the flight more pleasant. More people just makes it worse. So there was more people on the second plane, which totally made it worse. And then I was sitting in between two people. Like I said, it didn't matter if I was sitting by the window or not. There's pretty much no space to move. So if the plane goes down, you pretty much can't even kiss your butt. Same thing happened. This plane took off more rough. Even though it was a bigger plane, it still was bouncing when it was going to take off. Same thing, didn't say we're ready to take off. Didn't do any of that stuff. You know, pretty much just took off. Same effect. Same smell of fumes. I don't know, I guess the engines, the air system sucks in the fumes from outside. You smell the fumes again. It was the same thing. Before we took off on the bigger plane, it was the same thing with the fumes, the same thing with the not even telling us we're about to take off. None of that stuff. Pretty much put your seatbelt on throughout the whole. The minute you sit down, put your seatbelt on. You know, that's all they tell you. Put your tray up, whatever, and let's go. Like, they don't tell you, okay, we're ready to take off, which I feel they should. We took off. Pretty much there's nothing to film. We're, you know, 30,000 feet in the air. There's nothing to film but clouds. And then we landed. The landing was way worse than the first plane. It was way harder. The way the plane landed. It was a pretty shocking experience. I have it on video. When the plane lands, you got this big kaboom. When the plane hits the floor. The other plane did not do that. The other plane was pretty smooth. When it landed smooth. This plane landed very hard. I mean, I was kind of shocked as to the sound that it made when it landed. Not so much the wheels braking, but the thump of the ground and the way the plane jerked was for me was kind of shocking. After we landed, once we kind of taxied a little bit, we started getting closer to the terminal. Once again, we got the fumes. The sickness of smelling the fumes from the smoke. I don't know how that happens or why that happens. They're sucking air from the outside and it just sucks it into the plane. Like, that's kind of stupid to do that. You shouldn't let the plane suck air from outside, because you're just going to suck in the smoke from the other planes. And that's what we got, was another blast of fumes. Getting out, the only thing that I felt was good, my sister was telling me, I understand international airports are way bigger than smaller airports, like in Arkansas. They have a little airport. Chicago International is a bigger airport, so you got to kind of walk more. They do have signs which are very good. I'll give them that, where you follow the signs and it leads you to where you have to go to get your luggage. The only thing that I was appreciative of was that my luggage was there. The minute I got out the plane and I started walking, by the time I got around to get to the where the luggage was going to be at, they told us B7. The same, I guess the same gate and the same luggage dispenser are marked the same. So they said your luggage is going to be at B7 when I got there. My luggage was just coming out, you know. So by the time I got there, I saw my luggage. I only had one bag. Yeah, it was quick. My sister was a little upset because she was going to pick me up. She said, "Oh, now I got to wait for you to find your luggage." I told her, "I hope it's not a problem." She said, "I never flew before." She said, "Yes, sometimes it's a problem. You got to wait." So I was happy I didn't have to wait. As far as flying, I will never do it again. That's one thing I'm going to do now, is not ever fly again. I've flown. I have my experience recorded. I'm making this video actually to state the reasons why I don't want to fly again. I'll never fly again. The whole experience was way worse than taking a bus. If I had to choose between the bus and a plane, I would go on a bus. It's more pleasant. It does take longer. Now the trip on the plane took, it was supposed to be 4 hours. It winded up being 7 hours. Go figure, you know. So if you think you're gonna get there early, it's not really calculated that way. So instead of being 4 hours, you know, getting here by 1 o'clock, I got here at 3 o'clock. It was 2 extra hours from my original 6, a 5-hour flight. You know, they figured 4 hours flying and an hour getting in and out of the terminal turned into 7 hours, almost 8, almost 7.5 hours. And then getting out of the airport, you know, walking. When I got to LaGuardia, I had to kind of like walk a little bit. So those type of things are pretty good when it comes to finding your luggage. As far as flying, yeah, I won't fly ever again. That's my experience. I've never flown in my life. I will never fly again. Okay, I've been the company that is hiring me. I start on Monday. They wanted me to fly me down to a specific state. I told them I'm not gonna fly. They offered. I told them, find me a bus. I will go on the bus. It's gonna be within 15 hours. It's not gonna be, you know, 24-hour bus ride. Anything more than a 24-hour bus ride, you got to break it up. You could travel 10 hours, 12 hours, and then, like I said, so I'm going to be taking a bus next week. I'll be taking a bus to my new job. I've been hired by this company to drive trucks, and they want me to go down to a specific location where I'm going to be trained for 10 days. It's called, you know, doing some training, backing up, hooking and unhooking, you know, learning how to do the job. And then pretty much I get my own truck after 10 days. So right after Christmas, I'll be leaving and doing this journey. So I'm not gonna take a plane down to the location. I already told them either I'm gonna drive or take the bus. So I told them if anything happens, it's gonna be bus. So you can forget about the plane ticket. I told them you can forget about plane tickets. I don't want to fly. There's no way I'm gonna fly. That's why I had a problem. They wanted me to go back to Arkansas, and I told them no. I don't want to go back to Arkansas. It's too much. Unless they're gonna rent the car for me, which they say we can't rent the car, but if you get the car, we'll pay so much. I don't have a car to get to go down there, so I told them we're gonna have to wait for me to start my my job at this company. So they told me, fine, we'll find a different area for you to go to train, which will be closer to where I live at. And a couple of days later, they called me back. They told me we got a closer place where you could go to. You don't have to come all the way to Arkansas. It's closer to New York, so you could just go there and do your training. Once you do your training, you go back to New York, and we'll get you your own truck. So my base is going to be closer to me. It's not going to be Arkansas or Ohio or something like that. It's going to be a closer state to New York. So that's what I want. But the video purpose of this video was specifically to talk about buses and plane rides. I never taken either. I never flown in a plane before, and I never took a bus anywhere before. And if I'm comparing both of them, for me, as a first-time traveler in buses and in planes, I took 2 planes and I took 3 buses. The experience of the switching over and waiting for the other plane and waiting for the other bus, I'd rather take a bus. Seriously, I'd rather be in a bus. There's less people. It's less of a headache. The bus stations are smaller. It's not that many people. I hate giant crowds. Yeah, so I would take a bus. I recommend taking the bus. It is not as bad as people say. So my recommendation, my thumbs up goes to the buses, not planes. So I would take a bus, not a plane.